I believe that craft can be taught. When I first started writing, I hadn't taken any writing courses, and I thought because I had read a lot of books that I had somehow intuitively soaked up the how-to, and of course I hadn't. So when I started taking courses, I realized that there were so many things I didn't know. I didn't know what the difference between showing and telling was, you know, when I was just a reader. So I think that there's a lot of things that can be imparted, and when I teach, I try to be very hands-on and sort of nuts and bolts, and I don't talk about nothing mystical. You know, I say, let's talk about verb tenses, and let's talk about point of view, and sort of the little rules that you have to follow. And yes, you can break the rules, but you know, first time out, how about trying following them? And so I really emphasize that kind of thing. And what I find interesting is that many of my students ignore my advice, and they don't follow these, what I think are pretty basic standard rules of how to write well in terms of forming your sentences, let alone structuring the story. But on the other hand, there are some who do, and who sort of take my advice very seriously and work hard on fixing their sentences, but then they may fail in some other way. So, you know, their story may just not be interesting, or it may not have you know, a satisfying resolution, or their characters may not be that likable. So there's so many components that go into writing. There's the craft, but there's also a degree of talent, and then there's the ability to come up with a good story and tell it in a way that is fun. Writing book reviews is something that I think I like to do because it gets my name in the paper, and at the bottom of the review it'll say Kim Moritsugu's latest novel was whatever. And so it's a good way to stay somewhat in the limelight. I just the other day actually was sent, just a couple of weeks ago, I was sent a book by the Globe to review, and I don't know why they pick me for certain books. I don't know, not sure they know why either. But I read this one particular book, and it was a novel, and I just really disliked it. I mean, I disliked everything about it. And I said before that I'm very picky, so I don't like a lot of stuff, but this thing there was just nothing good about it. So I sent an email to the editor of the book section. I said, I really don't think I'm the right person to review this book. There's nothing I like about it, and what benefit would it serve for me to say that in 800 words? You know, either get someone else to do it or whatever. And so then they sent me another book and said, try this one. And I'm reading it now, and I like it better than the first one. But I always, when I'm writing the review, I think to myself, does the person who's going to read this review really care what I personally thought about it? Or do they want to know what kind of book it is? So that's what I try to do. I try to describe what kind of book it is, and I say the things that I thought worked and didn't work. And I do always, you know, like a good teacher, try to find something positive to say, as well as something negative. No, I think that every time someone writes a novel, they're hoping, well, especially someone like me, I mean, when I have not had the huge success, I still think, like an idiot perhaps, that the next one is going to be the one that breaks through. And we all know people who, you know, wrote 5 or 6 novels, and it was the 5th or 6th one that broke through and became the big success. So then you sort of, Carol Shields is very often quoted, especially to women in Canada, women writers in Canada, you know, well, there's Carol Shields, you know, her first 4 novels did nothing. So you think that could happen to you too. So there's always that feeling. I mean, there are of course rewards too, beyond, even if my books have not been huge successes, there's many rewards. I've had readers come up to me, you know, I've had actual strangers, you know, who didn't know me beforehand, read my books and send me an email, or come up to me when I've been making a reading or something, and tell me they loved the book, and they really enjoyed reading it, and they laughed, and all those things are wonderful.